Hey guys, I'm Tempest, the Flamewoven Alchemist, and today I am redoing my yearly manifestation box. Let's make some magic. Before we jump into making, let's talk about what a manifestation box actually is. A manifestation box is basically the container version of a vision board. It's a tool to help you achieve your goals with a little bit of a magical bump to it. Like all magic, this spell working won't do the work for you, but instead it helps you do the work. For example, if you want to manifest your dream body, but you never actually put any effort into exercising or eating right, box isn't really going to do much for you. But if you're someone who is actively pursuing your dream body, like you're going to work out, you're being careful about what you eat and making sure that you're putting good things into your body, that's where the box helps. By putting a goal or a dream into the box, you are actively choosing to make it a priority. I like to do this working for long-term goals, but you can do them for short-term goals as well. Remember that the harder a goal is to achieve, the longer it's going to take and the more energy you're going to have to put into it. You can do this working on a yearly, quarterly, or monthly basis. You could also choose to time this with a moon cycle, for example, from new moon signifying a new beginning, all the way up to a full moon where you harvest those goals. Or you could time it with some other astrological cycle. I like to do this working on a yearly basis. I do it working with the seasons of the year. Now that it's March, it's actually like March 1st when I'm filming this. I'm working with springtime energy, right? Our snow has melted. The temperatures are getting warm again. If you can hear children screaming, it's because they're outside. The neighbor kids are playing. So, spring has come back to this area of the world. I like to start this box in springtime because it's a time for planting the seeds for new goals, new things to grow. And then I will be actively working on these goals through summer and fall being kind of the area where I tend to want things to come to full completion to be able to harvest, so to speak. And then in winter, this is generally the time where I slow down. I've stopped kind of actively working towards things. I tend to take a rest period to kind of reflect. So I open my yearly box back up in between the winter solstice and New Year's in order to see what I was able to accomplish, what still needs more time to grow, and what's no longer a priority for me. After opening the box in the wintertime, I then let it rest until spring comes again, and I start again with new goals. You can use any container you prefer, but I would recommend a container that gets shut fully. You really don't want this to be something that you're taking stuff in and out of. You want to be able to shut it and keep it shut. I use this little wooden box from the craft store that I've painted red, but you can use whatever container you have on hand. If you have kids or pets, something they can't get into is probably going to be your best bet. When building a long-term working like this one, I like to build up lots of layers to the enchantment. I find this gives the working the most energy possible without me constantly having to feed it my own energy. For this working, the box or container you're using forms the basic framework. I use a box that reminds me of a pirate's treasure chest, and then the treasure inside is all the things that I want to achieve. My box is painted red because for me, red is a color of power, and I want it to help kind of empower the working within the box. Now that I have a foundation, it's time to lay the groundwork. So for the first layer added to the box, I'm going to add rice that has a little bit of cornstarch mixed in. You could also use dirt or lentils for this. The purpose of this material is to add a foundation for growth and abundance. I've got cornstarch. Staple crops like rice or lentils have been grown and then harvested. We want to kind of impart the same quality to our goals, right? We want them to grow and we want them to flourish, and then we want to be able to harvest those goals. Making a mess already. Every time I do a spell working, I make a mess. So if your stuff's not aesthetic, it's fine. There are also food staples, right? They are shelf stable when they are enclosed and dry, so you don't have to worry about anything kind of rotting inside of the box. If you can cook rice or lentils, you have kind of the basis for a meal, right? So this adds to their kind of association with abundance and prosperity, which is something that I'm working on manifesting with this box. I'm adding a little bit of cornstarch to mine because I live in Iowa and corn is our biggest staple crop. If I'd been thinking about it back in October, I would have picked up some dried ears of corn when we do our annual corn maze family trip. So I would have been able to like grind into a powder and put in this, but I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't prepared. So alas, I will make do with what I have in my cupboard, which is cornstarch. As I mentioned, you can also use dirt for this, which would be like a fertile soil from which your plants will grow, is the association of that. I am also going to add the ashes from last year's completed petitions. So burn these up outside. I'm just going to dump them in there. So the purpose of adding the ashes from last year's mixture is to further power it with the success year after year after year. Right, so it's reinforcing that successful working and building on top of that. Okay, so I'm going to pour this into the bottom. So the next step is to start adding the petitions stating the goals that I want to achieve. I've split these into several categories. I've got, like, for example, some of my business goals, kind of our household happiness, health, and shared goals, and then household finances. Each category is going to get anointed with oil that is specific to that category. So, for example, our home is protected would get a little bit of some quartz oil, this is really just a manifestation bump, all-purpose charged oil. Then I also have a little bit of protection anointing oil that would go on that one. The business goals are going to get anointed with the oil that I made specifically for my business. This contains all sorts of stuff for prosperity and creativity, as well as money that I've actually made from the business. I also have a little bit of road opening oil for anything that needs a little bit extra oomph or is going to take time to manifest. I also, for the business ones, I have my attention oil. So this one is specifically for finding more clients, gaining more subscribers, building a community, that sort of stuff. And then the last oil that I have over here is the label wore off, but this is dandelion oil. So I use this for rapid and prolific growth, as well as breaking through like difficulties. So it's a little bit of like a sibling to the road opener oil, because dandelion like grows up through cracks in the sidewalks. You like cannot stop this stuff from growing. So that's what I like to use it for. And then I'm also going to write on the back of each petition with my This is the pen that I always use for petitions. It's, I got it out of, I think, a Goddess Provisions box that my mom had got for me a couple years ago. It just says Manifesting Magic on it. So I really like to use it whenever I'm designing enchantments or writing sigils, writing petitions, anything like that. I like to use it for that. So rather than creating an actual sigil for this, I'm just going to go with a basic triangle, because the triangle is a symbol of power and kind of an energy generator. So that's what I'm going to put into this rather than doing a planetary sigil, just because I don't have the time and energy for that one right now. Each one, this is the one I showed you earlier. So each one gets marked with the sigil. And I'm going to put another star in there because I feel like it. So home protection one. So I'm going to add a little bit. If I can get the dumb thing open. Goodness. Holy cow. Close tightly. Yeah, they really meant that. Okay. There we go. Goodness gracious. So anoint that with a little bit of the protection oil, a little bit of the quartz oil as well. And then each petition gets folded towards me, and then turned and folded towards me again, and then folded towards me a third time. So these are nice and small. And then it goes into the box. I'm gonna keep doing that, and then I will meet you guys back here when my box has been filled. Now that I've got all of my petitions anointed and added to the box, next thing I'm gonna do is add extra energetic links to the goals that I want to achieve. So I've got this guy. This is actually a bag of small souvenirs that I picked up on the first trip that I went with my husband on. And since one of the things that I'm hoping to manifest is a small getaway trip for our anniversary, that one goes in there. Next I have... these are two little borosilicate lampworked glass pieces that I made. So these guys are going in there specifically because I want to spend more time on the torch this upcoming year, as well as this little piece of paper, which is the Flame Studio rules and regulations and like available dates. I'm not able to do lampwork glass in my house right now because I don't have exhaust systems set up and the right tools and equipment. So I go to a local studio and use their tools. So those are going in there. I also have this Escapology bracelet from doing an escape room with my dad and little brothers. Since I would like to be able to do more of those this year, that is also going into the box. Next I have some fortune cookies that I know fortune cookies are just an American thing, but I've always just really enjoyed them. So these are things that I want to have happen that I didn't feel had manifested yet from last year. So those guys are going in there. Last but not least, I've got some foreign currency. This is leftover from my trip to Iceland. And since one of the things that I like to do is A, go back to Iceland, and B, do more international travel, that is going into the box as well. We're going to tuck that right in there. Okay, so now that I've got the taglocks in here, the last bit is to call in the allies and archetypes that I want to help me with this working. The next thing that I'm adding are these three little glass baubles. Now, glass is a vessel. It holds energy really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these 3 particular baubles up to draw in the energy of Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is the planet of success and abundance. Since really that's what I'm wanting to focus on this year, is really diving into my business and being successful with that and reaching the milestones and the goals that I want to reach. So Jupiter is the planet I'm working with. So these guys I'm setting up, what I want them to do is I want them to pull in the energy of Jupiter. And to do this, all the time, because Jupiter does not suddenly stop existing just because it's not its day or planetary hour. But these will be more effective during Jupiter's day and its planetary hour. So I want these to work basically as an overflowing goblet. I want them to fill with energy and then have that continuously fill and spill out into the box where I'm putting them. So first thing that I'm doing is I'm doing on the bottom of the bauble, which is the flat side, I'm drawing my symbol for drawing in energy without a limit, right? So I've got arrow from the top, from the bottom, from the side, and from the side. And then I connect with another arrow in each of those 4 quadrants. Right. Not pretty, but it works. So this is the kind of symbol sigil that I've created for drawing in energy. Now, because I want it to draw in the energy specifically of Jupiter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over, and on the top, I'm going to write the planetary symbol for Jupiter. And this acts as basically a filter to determine what sort of energy is being pulled in. Right. So there we go. That's 1 of 3. Maybe it'll show the planetary symbol for Jupiter, and all the arrows on the back that just look like a jumbled mess because I have only the large Sharpie. But essentially it's an unbroken circle of arrows pulling in energy. And then I've not created any sort of boundary line around those arrows, specifically because I don't want it to keep holding the energy. I want to let that energy overflow and then land in the box, which actually acts as my power source for this working. And I'm using 3 of them because for me, 3 is a number for power. So I like to work in 3s in order to empower things, which, similar to the triangle that I used earlier on the back of the sigils, or the petitions rather. Okay, so now that I've got those guys in there, the next ally that I'm adding for this working is citrine. So these are just 3 tumbled citrines, and citrine is an ally for bringing in wealth and abundance as well as confidence. So, and these 3 have agreed to help specifically with this working. So first, before I put them in, I'm actually going to empower them with a little bit of Reiki energy, just as a thank you for everything that they are helping me with in this working. Okay, so those guys go in there. So what you didn't see, because my phone can't play music and record at the same time, is that while I was doing all of my petition work, I was actually blasting music that I was jamming to, which is a way of helping build energy and pouring energy into those petitions. I also have a candle going just off screen that I've been pulling energy from as well for this working. So really created kind of a buzzing box at this point. So the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to close this up. I'm going to add some cards to it. Now, you can use oracle cards, you could use tarot cards, you could put them inside the box. Because this box has little ridges on it, I'm able to actually just kind of slot the cards that I want to use into the top. That way, should I want to use them for another working in the meantime, I actually can. It also gives me something to look at and notice on the top of the box, something to focus on when I'm doing energy work or adding things to the box. So this is the Making Magick manifestation deck. It's just got a bunch of little cards with like different symbols on them. So the two that I've picked out for working with in this instance are the Philosopher's Stone. Come on, focus. You can do it. There we go. So obviously this is a manifestation box, so empowering that, transforming the goals from wishes into reality, working with the Philosopher's Stone for that. And then the second card that I'm using is this little on target card of following your ideal life path. So focusing on, realized last year that I've spent pretty much my entire life building the life that I was told I needed to in order to be happy and successful, and realizing that that is not actually what I want to be doing. I can't get the cards back in the box. Goodness gracious. There we go. Okay. So, following my ideal life path now and doing what I want to do to create the life that I want to live rather than what everybody else has decided I should be doing. So that's that one. And here is my box in its final location on my prosperity altar. I keep my manifestation box on the prosperity altar by my front door. For me, this is a tool designed for a very long cycle. It's important to remember that all systems, even enchanted ones, need maintenance. How often and what is needed is going to depend on how you've set up your enchantment. For my box, the glass baubles that are connected to the energy of Jupiter are acting as a constant power source. So I'm not needing to add extra energy of my own to it. Because this box is down by my front door on my prosperity altar, it does draw my notice as I'm, in my house. So, or coming and going from my house. So when I think about it, I do actually take some time to add energy to it. But I've got it set up so that I don't constantly need to add energy to it. And then, like I said earlier, I give this system of enchantment time to rest in between winter and spring so that it can kind of reset itself. Alright guys, that is how I set up my yearly manifestation box. I originally got the idea for this from Ivy the Occultist and her video on manifestation boxes, so I'll go ahead and leave that linked in the description below. We also have a little bit of a small business shout out. You can't really see my top because a cat is currently laying on top of it, but this tie-dye top was made by another small business called Back to Earth Creations, so I'll leave a link to their stuff down in the description box as well. Not sponsored or anything, I just love their work and the community that they've created. I hope this video has been useful for you. If it was, please like and subscribe, or share it with your friends. Alright, time for shameless self-promotion. I run a small business where I make magical tools and talismans for other practitioners from... You are not helpful. From metal and glass. I do custom work all the time as well as custom wire wrapping, so if you're interested in getting something handcrafted, go ahead and check out my website linked in the description box. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep making magic. Ash, this is my chair. I'd appreciate if you stop hitting me with your tail. Really? Really? You're gonna sit on my lap as I attempt to do this video? Sounds about right. Yes, child. Hello. Thank you. You're not helping. Can you be nice, please? I'm gonna kick you off my lap if you bite me again. What are you doing, child? You're so needy. So needy. I gotta go stop the recording.